So just the other week, I think on Friday, I did that little segment where we talked about Ubisoft and sort of the process of reviews and paid like sponsorships and reviews. Because somebody was like, "Oh, they're just going to pay for reviews to get good coverage of various games." And I, not just Ubisoft, but other companies as well. And the truth of the matter is that the FTC, like in the US at least, it is straight up illegal to pay somebody to make a review and then present it as a non-sponsored review saying something's great when you've actually been paid to say that it's great. I mean, you guys might remember the old school thing that happened with that CSGO lottery thing, the CSGO Lotto or whatever it was, where YouTubers that owned a website for like selling and trading and gambling for CSGO skins, they were directly profiting off of their promotion of the website, and they failed to disclose to everybody that they were actually owners and that they had a vested interest in it. FTC disclosures are nothing to mess with. Like, they're very, very serious. Doesn't mean that companies or creators won't sometimes break them, but usually they're very, very robust. The one example I did bring up of like where companies will pay you to just say word for word what they want you to say, and like you can't be critical or whatever. I've only ever seen it with like mobile games personally. I don't usually cover like live service games, so I don't usually get offers for those, but I've had companies reach out from all over the world that do like mobile games, and they want you to just talk about how it's the best game you've ever played. The characters are the coolest you've ever seen. Like things that are not true probably, but they need you to say these things word for word for word. And as a result of those, like I've never taken any of those deals. I have put into all of the contracts for all of the sponsored videos we do that I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say. And if anybody ever comes back and gives us pushback and is like, maybe Luke could calm down on how critical he was of this element of whatever he was talking about, we always say, nope, it's in the contract. I'm allowed to say whatever I want to say. And that's that. So we've always avoided this because these companies need the creators more than the creators need the companies. And so usually as a creator, if you just put your foot down and you're like, no, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, usually they crater pretty quickly. But something happened with Marvel Rivals just this past week that was pretty telling. Brandon Larned tweeted out, extremely disappointed in Marvel Rivals. Multiple creators asked for key codes to gain access to the playtest, which is going on this weekend, and are asked to sign a contract. The contract signs away your right to negatively review the game. Many streamers have signed it without reading, just to play. For one, I will not defend anybody who signs a contract and doesn't read it. At that point, you're just being a dumbass and you get what's coming to you. But that being said, this is wholly unacceptable for any creator to sign, much less for the company to even think is okay to ask the creator. This is a non-disparagement clause. A lot of them are not. I mean, there's potential that a lot of these will be made illegal even in the US. There's some big lawsuits and court cases coming up where it looks like non-disparagement clauses might actually get booted because it like inherently is toxic to a free economy to like work somewhere that's toxic and then not be allowed to talk about how toxic it was. It's really stupid. But anyway, as of right now, my understanding is that they're legal, but the content creator agrees not to make any public statements or engage in discussions that are detrimental to the reputation of the game. This includes, but is not limited to, making disparaging or satirical comments about any game-related material, such as game features, characters, or music, or engaging in malicious comparisons. What is a malicious comparison? With competitors, or belittling the gameplay or differences of Marvel Rivals, or providing subjective, negative reviews of the game. In other words, if you sign this and you get access to the playtest, you're not allowed to say anything mean or critical. A lot of streamers signed this and then found out after the fact, because they didn't read it when they signed it, they found out that they weren't allowed to say anything critical of the game, which is insane. Yeah, you can't say, like, you can't compare it to Overwatch. You wouldn't be able to do this. Like, you can't engage in malicious comparisons with competitors. Yeah, so like you're saying in chat, you wouldn't be able to say like, yeah, I'm not sure if this is as good as Overwatch. That would violate this because it's a malicious comparison with a competitor. Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Totally unacceptable. On the one hand, yes, the streamers should read what they're signing. And I understand the argument that's like, well, boo-hoo, the streamer signed the contract. It's their own damn fault. I get that, but this should never be in a contract to begin with. Like, the reason why they probably signed it without really reading through it is because they never even thought that this would ever be in a contract, because I've never seen a straight up written in non-disparagement agreement in contracts. Usually it'll be like, they'll say something like, you have to speak word for word like this about our mobile game. Monopoly Go is the greatest game I've ever played, and it's so addictive, and my friends all love it too, and every time I play it, I get an inch longer, whatever it is. But they won't necessarily say you're not allowed to say these things. Like, they might say like no profanity, no like grotesque something or other, stuff like that. But usually they don't just straight up have, I've never seen a non-disparagement in like bolded letters as an actual section. But people naturally reacted pretty negatively to this because they're like, how on earth does this work? Like, how is this allowed? What on earth? So Marvel Rivals, after a lot of blowback, posted this. Dear Marvel Rivals players, today is the third day of the closed alpha test, and we are truly grateful for all the love and support from the community. We would like to take this opportunity to address the concerns we've seen regarding the agreement terms of the content creator programs, and above all, we would like to apologize for any unpleasant experiences or doubts caused by the miscommunication of these terms. We're sorry. We're sorry. The Content Creator Program is a small-scale project that aims to aid in the production of incredible content by supporting creators through giving them more resources. We actively encourage creators to share their honest thoughts, suggestions, and criticisms as they play. All feedback, positive and negative, ultimately helps us craft the best experience for ourselves and the players. We sincerely apologize. We're sorry for the confusion, suspicion, and frustration caused by these excessively restrictive terms, and thank you for sharing with us. We cherish and appreciate every suggestion given by our players and always respect your feedback. We are currently working with the creators who have expressed these concerns and are revising the current version to be less restrictive and more creator-friendly. Thank you for bearing with us while we make these adjustments. We hope you're enjoying the game so far, and we are always open to hearing your sincere thoughts and ideas on how we can improve the game. The Marvel Rivals team. And then it's like somehow people are just like totally moving past it and forgiving them on it. I don't know why we're all just like moving on so quickly. The fact that they were looking to quell and squelch, that's a word, right? All critical feedback from anybody that signed the agreement is worrisome. It's very worrisome. And it honestly makes it so you probably shouldn't take seriously any ads or promotions or anything, unless the creator, like unless they do something where they put in the text of the offer and they're like straight up, like, I'm allowed to say whatever I want. I can be critical. I can do it. Like, that's what they're going to have to say now. It's why in our videos that we do that are sponsored, I say at the very beginning of the video, I'm like, I have clarified, I am allowed to say whatever I want to say, positive or negative, because that's the truth. And if it wasn't the truth, I wouldn't say it. And unless you see a creator that's willing to say or that says the same exact things, I wouldn't take any promotional stuff for that game seriously at all at this point. Like, it's best case scenario, they probably had lawyers draft that up and the lawyers were like, yeah, well, we're promoting something, so we'll just say that you can't say anything disparaging, blah, 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 blah. And they just typed it up and nobody really looked at it that closely. That still doesn't excuse it, but that would be the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that this was something that came from within their teams and they said to the lawyers drafting the contracts, oh yeah, make sure that nothing critical can be said or done about the game because we don't want any critical feedback. It's something really common in mobile games that they just stomp down any critical feedback. Nothing like that can happen, but it's not usually something you see in the console space or PC space. It's much more rare there. And like I said, I've never seen a straight up bullet point of non-disparagement clause in contracts. Maybe I've just missed it. Maybe it is a common thing that I just haven't seen, but I have not seen that type of thing. And so it's right for people to be upset about it, I think. Let's see. To be honest, I'm not surprised. If you give keys to a magazine, you can almost be be certain the game doesn't get too much criticism because they're afraid of getting blacklisted. Influencers do not have to be afraid of this since their income does not depend on early keys. So they're naturally a lot more critical and they're trying to get ahead of it. Yeah, so there is something where people will comment all the time on like reviews. Like what was it? I think I did the Starfield review and I was like, it's fine for the first 20 hours and then it gets really, really boring. And somebody was like, wow, lol, Luke didn't get paid enough by Bethesda to do this, implying that like companies will pay for reviews. And that flatly is illegal and doesn't happen. Where I think people maybe are unintentionally right in pointing to it is that I do think there are examples of creators that might be worried about losing access. So they're worried that if they get like a review code from the company, like a Ubisoft or a Xbox or PlayStation, whatever, and if they give negative feedback or if they critique something, that they will lose access to that company and to the review codes and stuff like that. And so for them, because they don't want to lose access to that, they kind of couch their opinions. It might be softer than they would be otherwise. And in my experience, there are companies that will do that. The example I've brought up is that we were getting all the review codes for PlayStation, and then I tore them a new one over The Last of Us Part 1 remake, and how I found that to be really, really lackluster as an offering, and for $70 as a full re-release, I thought it was just unacceptable. And so I brought that up, and all of a sudden, my email started going to their spam folder. Really, really strange how that works. So there's examples where it can't be confirmed that like you're on a blacklist because you were less than positive, but it's like suspicious. It's weird. Other examples though that I've brought up is like not every publisher's like that. And I would encourage any creator out there that might see this or hear this, like don't think that you have to lie or couch your opinions just to keep access. I called Ubisoft's last Assassin's Creed game, well, last main Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I called it a travesty of open world design. I tore that game a new one over the course of a 3-hour critique. Okay, I found it to be extremely lacking, and I just have many, many problems with it. 3 hours worth of problems with it. I thought the game was really, really disappointingly bad. And I've made all these videos and I've talked about that extensively. And they still will send me review codes. They'll still reach out. I brought up that like the marketing team reached out to me when we hit 500,000 subs on the main channel and congratulated us. Like they're just very nice people. And they're like, they have a company culture, amazingly enough, where they seemingly will take critical feedback and they're like, okay, well, we'll get you next time. We'll figure it out. And not every company has that. After I called Todd Howard evil for Fallout 76 because I just thought it was a straight up scam. Granted, BGS did not talk to me for like years. Starfield, they came out of nowhere and were willing to send me a review code, amazingly enough. But that one I understand a little bit more. But it's not actually the case that most companies will just blacklist you. A lot of these companies, got to remember, is that they're dealing with hundreds of developer or hundreds of like creators and reviewers, or even thousands. So you're just one on a spreadsheet that they are sending codes to. They're not going back through and like, okay, what did they give us? They give us a 6 out of 10. Okay, they're blacklisted. Cut them from the email address list. Okay, what did this person? An 8? Okay, they're good to stay on the list. Like nobody's really doing that. Okay, like nobody's really doing that. He took my thing. Red flag, red flag.